Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
How's it going?
Ruben Bressler.
Greetings. I am ready for this slow news week to fill just a little tiny bit of time.
So little happened.
Nothing at all.
We got to stretch it this week. We got to stretch it. Do know we can start with our trumpet blast, which you can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. Special notes here: we have a raid at the end of the show, keeping it community focused. Let's hope I'm not dumb enough to raid a replay channel.
That was my fault.
That was
I apologize for that. I saw that Alias only had, I was like, why does she only have 35 viewers? And then we linked, and yeah,
and now
turns
we
out
know.
it was a replay.
But you did the right thing, because we do want to try to raid people who don't have a lot of viewers. So
right.
You know, the professor's doing fine, Caleb Durward's doing fine. Let's give it to somebody who could use a boost.
Yeah.
That said, Aaron.
Hi.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
original asterisk. Happy birthday, and we're blocked.
Look, I could have just asked her how to say estrus again, and she'd have just been, you know. Evan.
Oh my goodness, there's gifts in the chat.
Oh my gosh,
So much.
Are we gifting?
Oh my gosh.
Somebody's getting gifts. Thank you.
Gifty, happy birthday to Aaron. Isn't she wonderful? Let's move on.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
So there was a banned and restricted update as of Monday, and it
Really?
is
I had no idea.
zero idea.
None. Not a clue.
Yep, and it is one of the most impactful banned and restricted updates of all time. Honestly, there's a lot going on here. First of all, there was justice for rampaging Forsythe.
Justice for Forsythe. Finally, we get three months ish. It was always kind of a joke, right? That Forsythe was banned.
Like, and obviously this is the least of the changes, but you know, we're just going through it here. And
I mean, in terms of having the most play, Standard is the format that sees the most play, so it may have the most impact. But,
I mean, it gets 3 months in only best of 3 play on Arena.
Right.
Not best of 1.
Yeah.
Still banned.
Yeah.
So
Still banned.
If you want to go burn those wild cards, you get one avenue to use them. I hope Jund Dinosaurs is good. I would note that a creature that deals them 1 damage whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you know, to its controller, well, that's pretty good against Scape Shift. So
yep. Yeah, the difference seems to be that it was banned because they didn't want to prevent decks from seeing play.
Right.
Now it's to the point where it's actually an answer to decks that people might be having a difficult time with otherwise. And so I think it's great. You know, I think it would have been a bit of a stain if we had, you know, entered rotation or we'd allowed rotation to happen and this card went with it. Like, come on.
You remember when I was in that bathroom and you like projected the pie into my face?
You were in the bathroom.
I remember.
And
yeah.
Like a splatter shield behind me of force. Well, Hogak Arisen Necropolis is banned in Modern, and that means things, doesn't it, Ruben?
Sure does.
Sure does. Take one for the team.
Yeah, I took one for the team here. I jumped on a grenade. I have what was this? Gideon's sacrificed myself for the cause.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I look forward to taking a pie for Hogak.
There you go. Hogak Arisen Necropolis, obviously a giant problem in Modern. Wizards gave it as much time as it possibly could.
They gave them more time than it possibly could, in my opinion.
I was really surprised. There was a tiny part of me that thought it wasn't going to happen because it felt like the obvious line. And, you know, I play Vintage where they ban everything but Mishra's Workshop. And so there was a little part of me that was like, well, this is too obvious. This is too easy. Wizards probably isn't going to do that. You know, I thought they might have gotten rid of our next card, but I really didn't think they were going to do the right thing.
I was definitely, you know, Wizards also looks at certain like win rates. If you're over 56% win rate against the field, not just a certain matchup, but against everything, that's a problem. And Hogak was
top 8 this past weekend at GP Vegas.
Hogak was way over the percentage, like
absurd.
Crazy.
And you know, as I mentioned before, the community really did try. You know, this isn't a case where they were just Normally people just jam surgical extractions and then they're like, why isn't this working? No, people were like, they were playing ley lines, they were playing the rest in pieces, they were doing the extirpates, they were doing spell bombs, and just, you couldn't keep it. You can't keep a good Hogak down. I mean,
right. Nice. Well, look, faithless looting is banned in Modern.
Wow.
This is a metric,
this hurts.
Neutron bomb to the format.
Oh yeah.
But then they dropped another one. Stoneforge Mystic, the card that has been banned ever since Modern existed, is unbanned.
I think it's fine.
So I am of a few minds on this. I think that it's obvious that if you ban Hogak and faithless looting, you have to unban something. You can't just take away toys. You can't just, for the second ban announcement in a row, remove things from Modern. I think that they did need to try to reintroduce something, and they chose Stoneforge. I am concerned with Stoneforge because Stoneforge is not the type of card that introduces new decks. It is the type of card that goes into existing decks and makes them stronger. You are now going to see things like 4-color Jund with Stoneforge Mystic. You're now going to see decks that already exist and simply slot in four Stoneforge Mystics, a Batterskull, and one of your various sundry swords.
I don't know about that. I mean, like, we've seen people experiment with Death and Taxes. You can do a pretty reasonable impression of Legacy Death and Taxes nowadays. You could even do like an Eldrazi and Taxes thing, which had been seeing play for a while. Sure. I think there's been some talk of possibly putting it in humans or things like that. I don't think it's going to slot in that easily. I honestly think it's fine. I've been saying that Maverick, as our friend, Kendra the Maverick Girl is saying, you can do Maverick in Modern now. And so I don't think it's going to slot into anything existing. I think if anything, it has the possibility of making other decks viable. And I think the card is fine. I've said so for months now. I think it's totally fine.
Well, I disagree with that. It's not going to fit into existence. I think there's a ton of decks that are just like Blue Eye Control is going to take it.
Right, but I don't think you're going to be stretching Jund. Like, I don't think we're going to see like a Jundy or anything like that. Like, I think it's going to fit into reasonable decks. I don't think people are going to be jamming square pegs in round holes. I think
the word you're looking for is like fair. There's no fair decks in Modern that are going to necessarily jump on the Stoneforge.
Yeah.
Right, but it's okay. I'm happy playing fair Magic in Modern, not just like oops, you're dead from Storm. Like, oops.
Exactly. And also, this is a different type of unban than unbanning Splinter Twin would be, which is another 6 to 10 cards, similar to Stoneforge Mystic, where those 6 to 10 cards lived in a lot of different archetypes, just like Stoneforge Mystic I think can live in a lot of different archetypes. This one, however, can be much more interacted with. This one can be much more handled easily by cards that already exist.
Well,
a Bolt, for example, just slows it down probably enough. And so I am okay with Stoneforge Mystic, and I'm excited to see that it is back and we get a chance to try it in this format.
I have seen, I believe it was Saffron Olive, Seth, who said at this point he has kind of next leveled to where he's running Sword of Sinew and Steel to destroy their Batterskulls and their swords.
No, I
was like, awesome. That's where we wanted to go. Like, keep evolving. Well, we got to keep moving here. Vintage, Wizards, just like Brainstorm and Legacy, they will not restrict Mishra's Workshop. They just won't. If you have a play set, congratulations, they're going to let you play with it forever, because we're banning 4 mana artifacts, which is ridiculous, because they can be played on turn 1. I wonder how. Okay. Karn, the Great Creator, is restricted in Vintage. Mystic Forge is restricted. Mental Misstep is finally restricted. Golgari Grave Troll is restricted. Sorry, Aaron. Pour one out. And Fast Bond is unrestricted.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So I know nothing about Vintage. All I know is I want to play Experimental Frenzy and Fast Bond together.
So I've had the pleasure of trying out new Vintage ever since the restrictions happened, and the format is sweet right now. I think by far the biggest move in that list is Misstep. Like, I can't tell you how many decks I had tried to play with in preparation for a VSL and got vetoed largely because of Misstep. You couldn't do Enchantress, you couldn't do Death Shadow, you couldn't do Elves, you couldn't do Infect. There were so many other things that you could be doing, and that card just stopped them all. It made Thoughtseize good again, Surgical Extraction if you wanted to. I mean, that card is going to open up a lot of doors for people. Storm becomes good again, you know, with Dark Rituals. I faced 3 Storm decks the other day in a league. The Fast Bond is a powerful card. Lands could very well become a thing in Vintage again. There were some people really excited to play that too. I am so excited to play Vintage right now. There's a challenge this Saturday. I'm probably going to sign up for it. And the Grave Troll thing is fine. You know, if you're playing Vintage Dredge, you're going to be okay. You know, if you have Bazaar is a very forgiving card, where as long as you have Bazaar, and as long as you're dredging, period, it really doesn't matter how much you're dredging for. I didn't have a problem the other day. And once you hit the first Grave Troll, you can probably just hit it again with your Bazaar. So
Right.
I didn't really notice too much, you know, in terms of that. I think for Modern, it's a little more difficult, although I am seeing people brew a Tome Scour, which makes my heart just swell. But I think we're going to be okay overall. I think if you're a Dredge player, it's going to be fine. I think obviously it'll be easier for us to recover in Vintage. Modern, I think it might take a little bit longer, but I think it's fine. I'm anxious to see what both of the metagames shape up like. I'm enjoying seeing all of the new deck lists come out, and I think it's going to be a net positive.
I mean, at least you get to play with one, right? They didn't take away all the toys.
No, not at all.
I think at this point, the fact that we've been living through so many I mean, even just like the past 5 years, we've had more bannings, unbannings the last 5 years than, you know, what, the last 15 or so.
Right.
And with so many and so much stuff that we kind of get riled up about, could we not have a watch list at this point? Could we not, like, and not in both ways? This is the watch list to ban and the watch list to unban. And you can have opinions on that. You can talk about that, options about, you know, what may happen if they were to unban so and so, because they're looking at it. Because they.
I mean, if you want a watch list, just go hang out on the official Magic Twitch on when there's ever a competitive event playing, because that's all the chat is. Like.
And that's fair. I'm just saying, you know, the official from R&D, this is what we're thinking about, this is what we're looking at. And also, how would you feel, as a Vintage player, real quickly, about the idea of them restricting to 2 copies of something or 3 copies of something? This is what Yu-Gi-Oh does, by the way.
Right.
No, I don't really have any thoughts on that. I like it kind of the way it is now, with like the 1 versus. I mean, Vintage is the only format that does restrictions. Like Legacy doesn't do it, POWper doesn't do that. You know, Modern. I think that's fine. I think the 1-of is cool. I don't feel a need to change it.
Standard used to do restrictions. Back, you know, when the rocks were soft, when I was first playing back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You could play with your 1 strip mine. your 1 balance, by the way, that was fun. That was
man.
Oh my god. All right. So
Magic's been weird for a long time.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, of course, people like immediately ran to Twitter to get their sweet dunks on and their hottest of takes, pointing out things that
Forsythe. You know how many people tagged me in that?
You know, a lot of tea being spilt over this aged well, and so on and so forth. And he's, you know, and Forsythe said, look, Magic changes. Things can be true 1 month and not as true later. I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. At this point, Magic is such a moving beast. I mean, what things you said 3 months ago could be completely ridiculous now.
The most surprising thing about the banned and restricted update to me was not that Earthcraft still doesn't have justice, but instead that the Astrolabe is still legal in POWper.
Oh, man.
Oh, we're going to get to that, wizards.
Yeah. So, we'll get to it, then good.
Why do they let formats like just kind of suck for a while? I don't get it. It's obviously an issue. We'll get there.
Well, look at how long it took them to even acknowledge POWper as a sanctioned format. I mean,
it's true.
I know. Well, here we go. So let's move on to gather the townsfolk here. GP Vegas, Aaron, how was it?
GP Vegas was incredible. I had so much fun. I got to meet so many amazing people. I got so much love from people. I got hugs and I got compliments. You know, one guy even got down on one knee and said that I was his dredge queen. People were super lovely. I got a picture with Dana Fisher. Dana Fisher said she wanted to learn how to play dredge from me, which was a very heartwarming moment. You know, the commander party was lit. It was a really great, it was a win on every level. You know, I had a sweet hotel room. I got to hang out with cool people. I signed a box topper life from the Loam. Hi, Zelo.
Wow.
Thank you for letting me sign that. Somebody gave me a foil promo Assassin's trophy because I needed it for the GP. And then they were like, well, just take it. And I'm like, are you sure? And like, the people gave me cards.
Is that the most expensive card you've ever signed?
A box topper life from the Loam. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I know we're all going to get blown out of the water here by Evan. I'm sure of it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The most expensive card I've ever signed was a foil Morningtide Bitter Blossom.
Bird Blossom.
The most expensive card I have ever signed was an unlimited Mox Emerald.
Okay.
Jesus!
Wow.
I made the guy tell me like 4 times. I was like, "Are you serious? Are you sure? Are you sure?"
Yeah, I've had that conversation before, but no, Vegas was lovely. Vegas was lovely. I was very happy to be there, and that command zone was incredible. I was playing Commander all day on Friday, and it was spacious, it was well organized, it was clean. We had no problem finding people to play with. There was I signed your Monarch token, absolutely. They had these signs there that said, I am looking for casual players or competitive players, which is really important in Commander because it can lead to a really bad time if you're on the wrong side of the coin. Everybody I played was awesome. There were no Commander guys. Everybody was super cool.
No one was Commander guy?
No Commander guys. I just had such a good time.
I don't know if this is, I found this Cyclonic Rift in my binder.
No, there were no Commander guys. The Commander party was great. I got the deck I wanted with my Miss Angie. I got my Miss Angie right here. We had a lovely time at the party. The cosplayers were great. It was just a positive experience from start to finish.
Fabulous.
That is awesome. And there's a few issues came out of an event that big, but what I would say for the command zone thing is that I was super impressed. I felt they leaned in just the right way. They had a giant box banner. They had banners and whatnot, signage all around the area. Like, they have committed at this point. And not only have they done, committed at that event, they've also said that they're going to bring it to every North American, European, and Brazil MagicFest in 2019, starting with Montreal.
Yeah, we needed this to happen because the big issue surrounding this was that it was very difficult. It's been very difficult for Commander players or casual players to find a place to play at GPs. If you go to a GP and you're not playing in the main and you're not playing in any of the sides, you almost feel like you're squatting, where like you're just trying to find little places that you can play at, and then eventually a judge comes and tells you you have to move. And it doesn't matter if you're buying sleeves or you're buying food or like you're doing things that you think allow you to be there, somebody's still going to ask you to move. And the problem with CFB, and maybe not even a problem per se, is that it was really hard for them to track that people were spending money if it wasn't being spent on CFB things. So you're buying sleeves and you're buying singles, but they have no way to track that and no way to do anything with that data. But this is something they cannot deny. When you have over 1,000 people paying $40 a day to play Commander or $100 for the weekend, that is unmistakable evidence that there is an audience for these spaces, that people are coming to your events for this purpose, and money talks. And so, this is what they needed to see. They needed to see this, and hopefully that will lead to more people getting space, when they want to come to GPs and not play in the main.
Now, diminishing returns do exist in terms of if you go to another Command Fest or a MagicFest to the Command Zone and you get the Sol Ring promo, they're probably not going to buy it at $100 like they were at GP Vegas.
Yeah.
Those numbers are going to start to fall slowly. So it's not sort of like the freebie that it was for that event, which was some people got the early bird price, which was $80. So for $80, they got a promo worth $150. So Wizards gave the right incentive, which is an awesome promo, and they leaned in the right way to give them a real dedicated space. And I thought it was just brilliant, and they did a great job. So
yeah, I was very happy.
So go for that. 2 pieces of unfortunate information. One was the old school event. The old school event is 93-94 only and has a bunch of really old cool cards, a bunch of really old cool decks. And one, Brian Weissman. Is this the deck? Brian Weissman?
Deck.
The original OG Brian Weissman from back in the day. A tweet came out saying, is there a deck list error? Because in the finals versus, Elantris, this being Athena, Frolic, in round 4, only one Circle Protection Red was in his deck list photo, but 2 were out in play at the time.
She was playing Goblins, which is a mono red deck, and
and so the short explanation that showed up shortly thereafter was, quote, "I ran the same 75 for the tourney and had him photograph my testing list, which was what I wanted public. There is no rule requiring you to have your same list photographed. We didn't register decks or anything. Put your pitchforks away."
So
wow,
this hurt for a number of reasons, but the biggest reason to me is that the older formats have such a smaller community, and it's such a more intimate community. You know, this is a group of people that regularly loans people their mocks in without even knowing who they are. Like if it means you get to play vintage or old school and somebody says they'll vouch for you, they'll loan you a Chaos Orb. Like there is a level of trust and a level of intimacy with these older formats that you don't see in Modern or Standard or Legacy. And so it felt like so much more of a violation in this format than it would in other formats. It would be wrong anywhere, but this is what separates us from the apes, you know. You know, we're not modern players, we're not standard players, we're vintage players, we're old school players. We play in dirty basements, we play in people's houses, we play in unsanctioned events at bars. We don't do that. Like, we pride ourselves on being above all of that nonsense, and to have somebody stoop to this level for a tournament that wasn't, what were you playing for? Like, you're not playing these formats for the EV. You're playing them because you love these cards. You love these eras that these decks embody. And the fact that you would do something like that some uppity grinder would do for buys or pro points or something, you brought that into our format. It just felt wrong. Like it just felt very invasive. It felt like a betrayal. It wasn't good. It felt wrong.
It was disgusting. I was like, you know, and I was like, do you think anyone believes this nonsense?
No.
And if you ever
here's
start,
my opinion on that. Perhaps he does. Perhaps he does believe that nonsense.
Seriously?
Perhaps that is. Do you? I mean, look. This
was before the top 8. They took those photographs. This wasn't at the beginning of the event. This was right before top 8.
I understand. But first of all, if there's a short list of people that I would give the benefit of the doubt to on something old school related, and Brian Weissman is on that short list. However, and it looks atrocious, and I am 100% for pitchforks and doing all that. I'm saying I think he believes it. I don't believe it. I think he may. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I don't think we've heard the end of this. I think that there is probably continued fallout that will happen after this. Unfortunately, it's going to be measured as a result of the community that is 1993, 94, and the type of discussion that will follow.
You know, ultimately he did come back and said, yesterday I won the old school event at GP Vegas. However, my terrible decision to have a different deck list photographed for archival has cast a pall over my victory. My decision was wrong and clearly violated the spirit and expectations of the event.
Yep.
The tournament needs an untainted champion, so I'm returning the trophy and the prize immediately, and he's deeply sorry for any confusion and anger he caused. The old school community is my extended family, and I have competed in it for over 25 years with an unimpeachable record. So all's well that ends well. Ultimately, I just wanted to point out, okay, if you begin with let's see, what was the official wording here? Sorry, if you begin with there is no rule requiring such and such, sure, you're probably not in a good position. Okay,
Gross.
it's just bad. It's not a good way to start anything.
Yeah.
Ain't
no rule says that a dog can't play basketball. Is not a compelling argument.
So Amaz was DQ'd from GP Vegas for a physical encounter with a judge. He was trying to go between the tables of the players, as I understand it, at the Grand Prix, and that's not okay. They don't let you do that unless you're like playing and getting up and leaving the table. A judge said no. He tried to get past him anyway. Something physical happened here, insert physical something or other, and they, at that point, he got a, what was it, unsportsmanlike conduct was a warning for that one. And he's like, okay, whatever. He goes and plays his match. And then later, after playing the round, he was approached by the head judge and Mashi. They asked about the incident, and then the judge DQ'd him for aggressive behavior, explaining that physical contact by definition is considered to be aggressive. And then the fallout from naming the judge, for example, which wasn't, I think, the brightest idea.
Which wouldn't be so bad if Amaz didn't have 150,000 followers.
Right.
It's true. Now, because, you know, and that's an issue, essentially, is that you're kind of outing this person who, you know, did this wrong to you, when the judge is going to have to go to the DCI committee. They're not going to be able to talk about it publicly. and you only have one side of the story.
Well, not to mention that it's my understanding that that judge alone couldn't have handed down this decision, that judge would have had to have gone to a head judge.
Right.
And then together that would have been a decision, or that head judge would have made it. So you named somebody that wasn't alone in this, or didn't have the power that you said it did. Again, to your 150,000 followers, like that poor guy, like
Yeah.
You know, and someone mentions, you know, essentially this was his, you know, this is his way of explaining the situation, and his way of explaining the situation was, I got physical with the judge, and then you named him, and then we're in this situation right now. So it just got uncomfortable. It got awkward.
It was weird seeing the shift, because when the story first came out, this came out right around the time I landed on Sunday. And it seemed like the majority of people were on Amaz's side. And then over the next 24 hours, the needle started to move a little bit. And then
the Reddit thread is super interesting in a result of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
As it kind of went around to, and as the judges themselves were out there and tweeting and talking like, hey, this was not the right way to respond to your DQ in terms of trying to explain it. You know,
I was not present. I was not there. I have no idea what actually happened, but I'm going to offer an opinion that I think that very few people have, which is I have done officially sanctioned soccer refereeing at a very high level.
Oh, Jesus.
Earlier in my, come on, man, let me say my thing. When I was in my late teens, I was a very high-level high school soccer referee. Any physical contact is inexcusable with a arbitrating official, and not just in soccer, in pretty much every competitive thing. So if it got to the point of physicality of any kind, that is possible to be DQ'd for. So I have personally, with the statements released, no issue, regardless of how the veracity of the exact details of the incident.
All right, so that happened. Fallout happened. It's uncomfortable. You know, let's not react this way in the future, for all our sakes. All right, let's move on here to our next story, and this is we're going to meet Oko. Oko is the new planeswalker, a Fey planeswalker, showing up in Throne of Eldraine. He is this is a planeswalker that has mesmerized / enslaved Garruk. For if Rowan is Little Red Riding Hood, we have to have our huntsman.
Yeah, I called this. I don't remember where I did, but I did.
Yeah, the I think the ebook, or part like the first chapter of the ebook got released and whatnot. And it says things like, you know, Garruk is back, and the High King, father of Will and Rowan, is making a Grand Procession, a first harvest tour of all 5 courts of the realm. All 5 courts, I can imagine, being the 5 different colors. And Rowan's healer friend, Cerise, rides a bearded unicorn. Yeah. See also the pre-show. All right. But it is cool. We are going to have a brand new planeswalker that we've never seen before. And there was also kind of some interesting backlash. Aaron, you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of my favorite cosplayers is a young man known as Adam Barnello. Adam Barnello has portrayed Forsythe at an events. He's done Garruk. He's done, it means a lot to him. He's very involved in, playing sort of, he's a bigger guy. He bodybuilds, he weightlifts, I'm a big fan. And so he was
big fan.
And so he was talking about how when Oko was released, he was mentioning the fact that, here's another planeswalker, here's another male planeswalker that is sort of perfect, if you will. He's lithe, he has abs. There's been a lot of conversation about how female characters are handled and sort of the unrealistic body standards. But, here is another planeswalker that appears to be in great shape. And what about the big dudes? Like, what about the thick boys? Like, what do you have to look forward to? Who do you have to cosplay as? And we were even talking about it in the pre-show, Ruben. You named a list of all of the characters, and you were like, who do we have that has like an unrealistic or an unconventional body type? And we came up with what, Ugin?
Yeah,
there's
but
the
like
dragons,
everybody else, like,
Nicholas,
Right. I mean,
ready.
even Angrath, like Angrath is still stacked for being like a Minotaur, and like, you know, Bruce Tarl even was something that I had pointed to, but Bruce Tarl still has abs. And so, you know, this was a really great thread that Adam put up about, you know, let's give the dude something to, you know, aspire to, that if you don't look like that, you can still cosplay as well. And so, you know, I thought that was a cool little thread. It's something, it's a perspective you don't get to hear from very much. And, you know, Adam's great. So.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, another one that we did point out was Karn, but Karn is a robot person. Right. So, yeah, we could not come up with an overweight planeswalker or even a traditional body type kind of planeswalker. The closest you can really find is folks like Zhang Yangu or Dak Faden.
I will not rest until a dad bod planeswalker is in this world.
I mean, it's funny, but it's also not funny.
It's
right?
what peak performance looks like, okay?
It is what peak performance looks like.
Absolutely.
Absolute unit.
Oh Lord, he coming.
Yes. We got to keep moving here. There was a 2019 State of Design article from Mark Rosewater. And I love all of these. These are always great. Kind of shows you a little bit what they're thinking about on the inside of Wizards. Highlighting, for example, R&D starting to hit the right level of complexity, which I think they have. Particularly when you see War of the Spark having some very complex uncommons, but their commons were just, you know, run-of-the-mill. Great. Ob Nixilis' Cruelty is the best common removal spell ever printed. That's terrific. So seeing more of that is awesome. They're getting better at hitting player desires in terms of, you know, what modern players want from Modern Horizons, what Commander players want from Modern Horizons, for example. You know, all those things. Commander 19 has been a gigantic success. And they're bracing new tools to help make better designers, which is interesting, where he uses a random, for example, Coalition being a tool. They can make sure a Planeswalker is in every pack, just like they can make sure a Legend was in every pack of Dominaria. They could use, he says, lessons, they could use more synergy between the sets, because now we just have like big set. Yeah. They don't necessarily kind of, you know, agree with each other, connect per se. So that's a thing. They need to spend more time on pacing, for God's sakes. There was a release every month for 4 months this year.
It was too much.
I'm still just catching my breath, you know?
That was a lot. That was a whole bunch. He notes that, you know, they did well with Ravnica, but, for example, there wasn't a lot of innovation. I don't think there was like, you know, oh my God, Ravnica is totally new and different, but we all kind of love Ravnica, so it's not that big of a deal.
It's kind of like that TV show that you love. You love it for the characters, and even when the episodes aren't good, you still just want to be around those characters.
Right. Sometimes you just want Ravnica comfort food, man.
It's true. And it's interesting that they noted that one of the lessons of War of the Spark were too many rare or mythic bombs. Like the God Eternals, for example, were just insane. Like, they were bananas. Like, it was unbelievably difficult to beat those things. And so, yeah, and for example, static abilities of Planeswalkers like Narset being difficult to remember.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love hearing the stories from judges of just how many rules violations they've handed out, or how many warnings they've handed out simply because of the static abilities. How many judges themselves, when they're playing Magic, forget the static abilities? Like, it's real.
And some hand on the left didn't talk to the hand on the right and tell them they were killing Dak Faden. So that was kind of a problem. Would have been nice to have, you know, the Swan Song version like we had Gideon Blackblade. Right. We actually have a Dak Faden in Standard too, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Note that Modern Horizons, regardless of what you think about Modern Horizons, that set has sold. That set has made a whole bunch of money, and Wizards noted a whole bunch of times how successful it has been. They kind of regret having the word modern in it, because it's supposed to be about, you know, not just modern cards, because a lot of people are like, you know, Commander Horizons, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, and it was.
That ended pretty quick.
Except, you know, Hogak just got banned, so it's fine. It's not going to have any impact on Modern, don't worry.
I was a silly Hogak, I'm sorry.
It was interesting. You know, and one of the things I noted here on Core Set 2020 is that the set drafted well. And I'm just going to tell you, the Heart Piercer bow thing, did we really have to make that common and then make a dude who goes and gets it? Because
I mean, Renowned Weaponsmith already existed, but I've never seen a jump in playability quite like Heart Piercer bow and the Renowned Weaponsmith Dragonfire Vial
Dragonfire
collection go up. I've seen so many decks where it's just like a random deck that has that blue little package in it, and then there's one little 1/1 flyer attacking with 4 Heart Piercer bows on it or something. It's just ridiculous.
And, you know, again, I like the idea of the Renowned Weaponsmith. I like the idea they can go tutor stuff, but Heart Piercer Bow was uncommon, therefore you didn't get 2 and 3 of it, which I have seen multiple times now out of core set draft. I like the drafting format, but oh my god, I'm so tired of that card. It's crazy. I would note, just to note, I think M20 is one of the best core sets in years. I think they did a great job. If you go back and look at M19 and go like just look at like the rares from M19 and M20, and I was just noticing this on Arena, which was every time I'd open a pack of M20, I was like, oh, I could use that rare and so, or oh, I needed my 4th one of that so I could try that deck out. Like, there's a lot of really cool, awesome rares that you can kind of build around or play with, and that just didn't exist in M19. Like, there was just some awful cards in M19 versus everything in M20 feels like it's got a role that it could play, and whether you want to play it or not is up to you, but I thought it was great. So, good job there. So looking back via the last year of design, I think Wizards has done a good job, and I think all signs pointing into the later this year and into 2020 look very, very positive, and that's always great. So let's keep that up. Quick note where Mark Rosewater was asked the question, do we have a double-faced card in Throne of Eldraine? And he says no. And that'll be the first time in years in which we've not had a double-faced card in Standard. Because remember, they were in Ixalan, you know, as Kanta and whatnot. So interesting how they're not going to be there for a while, I guess.
Yeah, it's I mean, it doesn't seem like it's an indelible part of Magic. It seems like only yesterday we were saying that Magic was going to be ruined by the presence of double-faced cards, and now they've become so ubiquitous and popular.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have been waiting to see and read from Wizards of the Coast is that we now have a Magic Hall of Fame. We don't have a quote-unquote Pro Tour Hall of Fame. And they specifically said, do you want to, you know, do you hear your feedback about, do you think we should put non-players in it? I linked it in the chat. Go and tell them. There needs to be more people talking to them about this. I want the ratio to explode. Please tell them yes. Tell them you want this, if you want this, obviously. But I'm just saying, this is the part where they're like, hey, we want this feedback. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been begging you from like day one that I knew this existed. Why is Mark Rosewater not in this thing? We need all of these people who are important to Magic that you may not know how important they are to also get their due. Like Eric Lauer needs to be in that thing. And if you don't know who Eric Lauer is, this is a great opportunity to like let people know who he is and why he's important.
Exactly.
Jeez. So let's make it happen. MTGO POWper. One big POWper tournament, 214 players.
Wow.
For the MCQ. Very nice. And for the top 8, Snowbogles won the whole thing. There were 5 Jeskai, 1 Burn, 1 Stonehorn Tron.
Can we call that Snoggles?
Snoggles? I like that.
Little Snoggles. But there were also 28 out of a possible 32 Arkham's Astrolabe. Arkham's Astrolabe is broken. It's not okay for that format.
You know it's Legacy play now, too?
That's that's insane,
why
by
not?
the way.
When you're putting Baleful Strix and Wrenn and 6 in the same deck together, sometimes you got to fix your mana.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an insanely cheap cantrip. It fixes all of your mana. It provides an artifact, because sometimes that matters. Sometimes things interact with artifacts like Glenhawk, which you want to pick it back up so you can draw more cards. Like all of these things, it's on another level for Pauper, and it just sucks that we have another situation like what's the Drake that untaps the lands?
Peregrine
Drake.
Yeah, Peregrine Drake, where they waited like 2 or 3 cycles to be like, oh yeah, I guess we'll finally get rid of that because it's busted. Yeah, it's been busted from like the first week.
Well, I mean, I would argue that, but they're apples and oranges, right? Like, I mean, Peregrine Drake was the crucial component to an infinite combo or to a loop. Like that was a win condition right there. Like that was what you needed to like.
I mean, they're apples and oranges, but they're still fruit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's still a problem.
Right, but
it's a
what
different
the
kind of problem.
Astrolabe does, it's my understanding, is, I mean, it smooths the mana. It makes the mana cost irrelevant to a certain degree. Is that the same as something that is...
It doesn't just smooth the mana. It also replaces itself, and in decks that have things
right,
like
I'm just saying is I think there's different levels of urgency there based on what they do, where I think Peregrine Drake needed immediate action because it was ubiquitous, and it closed out games where like
I'll say it this way. I think that Peregrine Drake is more along the lines of Hogak, and I think that Astrolabe is more along the lines of Faithless Looting, and I think both should be banned.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
And I would put that. I also note that there's no good way to like make them pay for it or like somehow get ahead in it. There's no reclamation sage in POWper. You know, you can't be like Astrolabe and I go, okay, kill your Astrolabe, I got a thing left over, go. That doesn't exist. So you're always going to be up cards whenever you try to, you know, exchange resources for it. So nothing is efficient enough to answer it. Therefore, it just goes in everything, and therefore it's being abused by all these cards, and it's just kind of gross. Okay. The Esports Observer, esportsobserver.com, which they're trying to be as like pro as possible, and I actually think that's really cool. Turner's ELEAGUE is going to produce a weekly Magic the Gathering arena competition presented by Intel Gamer Days.
Oh boy.
Wow.
The series is going to run until December 18th, featuring a mix of influencers and top competitors. Who they are, we don't know yet. And Wizards continues to follow Fortnite's lead by combining high-level competition with influencer-driven content, which I thought was neat.
Cool. I mean, these are some big companies and big names associated with Arena. More of these third-party kind of tournaments can only be good news. I just need them to tell me where they all are, is the thing for me. Like, where are all of these tournaments? I want to watch them, or maybe I don't, but I would at least like to know when they're on television, where I can see them on Twitch, where I can see them wherever.
So, real quick here before we get to some real drama, there's a note here that the Twitter user AJLVI has the ELO project. And this is the ELO project that's been running for a decade now. Like, it's been around for a while. And you know, someone noted this is your per GP reminder that they upload ELO Data, a side project for which he is paid nothing, faster than the official Wizard site tells me how many Planeswalker points I earned for the same event.
Yeah. That's somebody who should have a Patreon right there.
The man does the work. And that is absolutely incredible. So like
Adam and Rebecca put this together at mtgeloproject.net.
Nice.
And you can search your own name. You can see so many statistics. It is just a simple and beautiful thing that they've put together, and I have nothing but love and respect for them, because this is just a lovely tool that we have access to through the goodness of their hearts.
Oops, there's a misclick, because I am trying to get this set up. Who's ready for some uncomfortableness? You guys ready for this?
This is why this is why everybody's here, guys.
This is why we're here.
We're here.
We know what you wanted to talk about, so let's talk about it. All right. Owen Turtenwald recently reappeared from a 3-month disappearance from the planet.
Something like that. Yeah.
Went from pro on the MPL to 0. And came back immediately on August 26th and said...
But it's not even that. It was like deleted the entire Twitter history, removed their Twitch account, and disappeared entirely with no... It was like gone. They disappeared. Yeah.
Everything was disabled, shut down, gone. Comes out August 26th, says, with 4 images featuring Hearthstone tournament stuff in Seoul, Korea. Says, most fun I've had in years was playing pro-level Hearthstone in South Korea at the hashtag Masters Tour Seoul. Feels good to be back competing for my share of the $1 million in prize money. In 1 hour, I will go live on Twitch and share my experience with this amazing game. And the elephant just sat right down in the room. And it got real awkward for multiple days thereafter.
Yeah.
And then, I'll bring it here on the screen, just today, this showed up. That was the wrong tweet. All right, here we go. He posted an image of words because it was too long for the tweet. He says, for too long I was convinced that I should never discuss anything inappropriate on my Twitter because it's where family and children go for my tournament updates. I did not want to tell my side of the story and remind anyone who I hurt. I have closely followed the discussion surrounding my return to gaming, and I feel I must address the elephant in the room. I have been disrespectful to women many times. I have made terrible mistakes for which I am very sorry. I believed because alcohol was involved that it was harmless, and that is absolutely false. The moment I fully understood and appreciated how my actions made people feel, I stopped immediately. I failed my core values and I needed to change. I will never make these mistakes again. Women should be treated with respect and dignity in all situations, at all times, no matter what. I was extremely selfish and did not care how others felt. I was wrong. It was hard to admit that I faced real struggles with mental health and alcoholism, but I am receiving professional help. To my friends, fans, supporters, gamers everywhere, and most importantly, everyone who I hurt, I am deeply sorry.
Oof.
There we are. That's a lot. But I would note that this is a clear, actual, factual apology. It's not, I'm sorry you feel this way. It is, I think, taking the issue head on. I think this is honestly what he should have come out with first.
Yeah.
I think kind of put the cart before the horse with that Hearthstone thing. But I think
Sure.
ultimately
there were a lot of problems associated with the delivery of the apology and the apology itself.
Mhm.
But and we'll have to defer to apology expert Aaron Campbell on this.
Yeah, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and break down this apology as an apology expert?
It seems better than most, which recently hasn't been saying much.
The bar's
but
low.
it's something.
So I'm just going to preface this by saying that I am not the arbiter in this situation.
Of course.
You know,
Sure.
my feelings on this are not indicative of everybody's feelings. And ultimately, the only people whose opinions matter are the people who've been affected by Owen's actions. So in terms of, you know, how well written it is or the points, I think it's certainly a good apology. I could have done without the first paragraph. Like, I'm not really sure why we went to the family angle. I think we could have done without that, but I appreciated the second paragraph. I think he was pretty straightforward with that. I appreciate that he mentioned seeking professional help as opposed to, you know, just kind of leaving it open-ended of like, you know, I am looking within myself, or like, you know, he's admitting that he alone cannot do this by himself, and he probably can't, which I think is very noble. You know, I appreciate that he, like you said, or a good rule of thumb that I like to say is the less words after I'm sorry, the better. And I appreciate that every time he said sorry, there was a period immediately after it, or there was no, normally it's like, I'm sorry, and it's like you're pulling a Lena Dunham, and it's like, that's terrible. So I appreciate that the times he apologized, it was concise. You know, I thought it was a decent apology. I've heard from many sources that he is taking this seriously and that he is trying to get help with this. And, you know, I think that's really all you can ask. I think that, you know, I like to see growth in people. And if I can look back on something and see a progression there and see an evolution there, you know, I might be able to move past that. You know, I didn't feel as strongly about this as some people did. And so I was trying to keep the focus on them and how they felt and their opinions. But from just strictly like a PR standpoint, I think it's a decent apology.
I think everyone likes to believe in second chances, you know, garnered, you know, the context and whatever. But, you know, ultimately admits wrongdoing, wants to do better. You know, it admits to everything, wasn't trying to mask it or hide it. It was like, I did it and it was bad and I was sorry and here we go. I don't think you get the second time, but I do think you get a one time of, you did this is bad, and don't ever do it again.
I hope everybody gets one time at least. And so, you know, it's tough to root against people trying. But it ultimately is also, it's not for me or us to particularly say, because clearly he has hurt and a lot of people, and negatively affected permanently a lot of people. So
yeah, so I would say if you're watching this show and you're looking for someone to tell you how to feel about this, I think there are better people out there. There are people, you know, closer to the situation, and they're on Twitter. And I think those are the voices that you should be prioritizing. We love that you're fans of ours, don't get us wrong. But, you know, I just want to kind of go back to those people that, you know, might have been more personally affected by this and let them kind of have the stage.
Fair enough. All right. So San Diego Comic-Con had the Dragon's End promos. These were the really sweet-looking Nicol Bolas, along with the 5 gods, which were really cool. Or actually the 4 gods, right?
Right,
just the
4 gods and Nicol Bolas.
4 gods and Nicol Bolas. And they are going to sell them online on September 10th. And as far as I know, this is going to be on the Hasbro shop again.
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
I believe so. They've had their own issues with that, so that's a thing. Good luck to them not having issues. But I would note that this isn't necessarily the product that I think you would want to invest in. And here's why. Wizards does this thing where whenever they do something the first time, they usually go too far. And they go, oh crap, we didn't mean to make this thing so ridiculously sweet, and then we got to kind of pull it back. The Challenger decks, for example. The Challenger decks, round one, we're like, oh my god, jaw-dropping. One deck has literally half of it is rares, they 2 Jade Light Rangered us the year thereafter, okay? They are doing a collector booster for Throne of Eldraine, okay? And stores are getting a percentage, not 100%, a percentage of their buy-a-box promos are also going to come with a free collector's pack. These packs cost like $20+ retail, okay? So you're still getting the buy-a-box promo, and you're getting the collector's pack on top. And they've also shared the collector's pack gets 1 print run. One print run. People are, stores are asking for amounts of collector boosters and not getting the full allocation that they want. They are getting allocated, which means they're getting less than what they have asked for. So, if I may, and I pre-ordered mine today because they started taking pre-orders at Cool Stuff Games, and I was like, yes, please, thank you. I will get that value, and I would suggest all of you guys get that value before everyone realizes how crazy rare these things are going to be and how Wizards has made a new premium product for the first time ever. And those almost always end up like gigantically financially in your favor. See also
as long
Modern
as you don't
Masters.
as long as you don't have to deal with the complete War of the Spark sheet fiasco.
Well, there's that. But at this point, you can pre-order boxes at your local game store in order to get the collector boosters, and every game store likely does it differently, so feel free to talk to them.
The collector packs are going to be absurd.
They're going to be absurd, like seriously absurd.
Yeah, I mean, you're fond of coming out and saying like this is a can't miss product, but like really, this is you cannot miss with these collector packs.
They're pre-ordering, I think, for around $240-ish or so. And honestly, that's going to seem like a crazy price one day of like, I can't believe they went for X because now they're Y, and whatever that happens to be. Like all those frames, all those foils, we still don't know exactly what's in it. They still have like surprises that they're going to show. Like that thing is going to be bananas, and I suggest you look into it. All right. So moving on here. Clarion Community College, the prof, Brian, made a video about the end of Magic Story, the end of free Magic Story, and essentially discussing how the Magic Story is actually advertising for the game and how it gets people more engrossed in the game and how it kind of pulls people in and how it shouldn't be seen as necessarily as a profit center or as a money maker, and instead as a part of the marketing outlay for a set is to tell the story behind it and get people invested in it and not necessarily have to go hide the story back behind ebooks and physical books, and instead say, well, we paid a writer to write all this cool story about what we're doing right now.
Right.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really sad to see the short stories going away. They were such an indelible part of learning about the world for me, and there is going to now be a paywall between my eyeballs, and learning what the cards are about. And that is a big feel bad, and it's going to be a huge shift. It's a sea change in how the story is delivered for a lot of people. I think a lot of people just aren't going to know the story now unless it's delivered by word of mouth.
Yeah, I want to jump ahead to Brandon Sanderson's response. I really like a lot of the points that he brought up here. And he was kind of talking about the behind the scenes of this, that